culture takes every bit of 3 to 5 years, right? So I'm not at all like the previous CEO. I don't plan to be. He doesn't want me to be. I don't want to be. So organizations take on the character of their CEO, and that'll take a good 3 to 5 years to change it. Now, you can change it. I mean, I can go in there and get rid of everybody right away. That's not a healthy solution for the organization. And
Say that again so that the coaches that do that can hear it. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a titan of business here with us today. One of my close friends, one of the greatest leaders in the healthcare area. Peter Banko is the incoming CEO of Baystate, but more importantly, he is one of the most dynamic and impactful leaders I have ever met. Please welcome Peter Banko.
Can we, before we start, can I ask a question, Peter?
Yes.
Okay, you have the St. Patrick's Day dunks on.
Yes.
Yeah.
What are your top 5 shoes in your closet? Because your wife said that you're a collector now.
Oh.
Yeah, I know you know.
Yeah, I got a pair of classic high top Jordans, like from the 80s. I got a pair of classic low cut Jordans. And then my son he calls them the professor because I teach a class at an Ivy League school. So he got me the like red and white with like a gold Nike on the
swoosh,
on the like the ties.
Oh yeah,
like
laces.
Yeah, laces. A big Nike. I got a pair of Gucci green Gazelles.
Okay, get it nice. Hey, yeah, we've been there. Yeah. All right.
Okay, swagged
up.
Swag. Yeah. I love it.
All right. Well,
had to start with that.
Yeah, had to. Why not, man? Gridiron and growth, you know? Well, Peter, man, you are one of the titans in leadership that I've ever been around. Let's just start, decades of experience in healthcare systems. What's key in making a successful healthcare company for its patients?
Oh, staying on top of the details. Like the small things matter. So a story, my first CEO job, the team that was there that I inherited said, hey, let's go meet with the docs. We really got to grow. We rented the Little Rock Club, top of the biggest building in Little Rock, had like 50 docs there, brought in a facilitator. And I made my opening comments. The facilitator made his, and the head of radiology stood up. He goes, I don't know why we're here. He's like, the carpet on my entrance to the doctor's entrance is dirty, and it's been dirty for 10 years. So, and the food in the physician's lounge stinks. So why would I think you could do something really special with the organization if you can't even provide good food in the carpet?
Wow.
And I was like, oh, well, we have 2 hours scheduled for this. This is not going to be great. And so that weekend I went in with the team and we ripped up the carpet. And so when he walked in on Monday morning, the carpet was gone. And I met with the food service people over the weekend. I'm like, here's what we need to have in the physician's lounge. So you got to stay on top of the details. The system, I think, is also built around the providers, the caregivers. It's not built around the consumer. So the system that can figure out consumer access. So my oldest son was in grad school. He was on Medicaid because he was older. He swallowed a bug while walking on campus. And instead of just going in and taking out the bug, he had probably 5 visits to the doctor, CAT scan, MRI, 2 ER visits. The only way we got him to the pulmonologist is my wife's roommate from college's mother sold the home of the doctor's piano teacher.
Wow.
And that's how we got him a visit. And my son called me and goes, it's not great being a Banko in a non-Banko health system.
What does it really mean to be a CEO?
Yeah, I didn't think CEO was possible for me, but both my parents were elementary school teachers. Like, we had no CEOs. I didn't know what they did. I wanted to be a helicopter pilot, right? And at some point, that became possible. And so I don't actually do anything as a CEO, right? My executive coach told me early on, he goes, there's only 2 things that you control. One is what your office looks like, and 2, who works for you. So talent's important. Building team is the most important thing that the CEO does. And then relationships. So all the way up to COO, you're paid on what you accomplish, the tasks that you do, operations, making sure things happen. And then it flips when you go to CEO. That's the biggest step, is you're responsible for relationships. So relationships inside the organization, in the community, outside the organization, any stakeholders, the financial markets. So my job is thinking from vision and strategy, building a team that can execute on it, and then managing relationships.
What prevents CEOs and leaders from taking feedback and then turning that into action?
Ego. People have trouble speaking truth to power. So the environment is you've got a bunch of people that could be saying yes to you all the time and affirming what you're saying even when you're absolutely wrong. So being able to listen, being able to give people the psychological safety to say, hey, Amper has no clothes here. There's something wrong going on. And that could be either be in a group setting or one-on-one to come into your office and say that this isn't working or you need to reconsider this. Being able to listen. CEOs need a healthy balance of ego and humility, right? And there's a fine line. All CEOs are a little bit narcissistic, and you have to be because you're alone. There's no peers. You're going to face a lot of criticism. Not everybody's going to like all your decisions. It's not a popularity contest. It's not Congress and a democracy. So I think ego gets in the way and being able to listen. So I've made a habit of anybody in the organization can email me directly, and within 24 hours, I'll get them a response.
Peter, you've been in a lot of different leadership positions. I would love to know, what does it look like from a time frame perspective? You're going to start at Baystate. Where do you expect that company to be at the end of your first year and then at 3 years, 5 years?
I think you're right on the 3 to 5 year range. You can do it faster, but it's how much change can you tolerate, right? So Baystate, I like turnaround. So this is a turnaround. It needs some financial fixing. We need to rebuild the balance sheet. We need to grow the organization to scale. It's a little bit small for long-term survivability, not short-term, 5 years. So look for partners, look to grow. So I would say out of the gate, you got to get quick wins. Culture takes every bit of 3 to 5 years, right? So I'm not at all like the previous CEO. I don't plan to be. He doesn't want me to be. I don't want to be. So organizations take on the character of their CEO, and that'll take a good 3 to 5 years to change it. Now, you can change it. I mean, I can go in there and get rid of everybody right away. That's not a healthy solution for the organization. And
Say that again so that the coaches that do that can hear it. Yeah.
For me in leadership, if they're not making progress at that 1.5, 2 year mark, then it's probably not going to happen.
Talk to me about what it's like to get those people over the line to buy into what you're talking about.
Yeah, it helps if they designed it on the front end. So the easiest thing we did here in Colorado was my now 17-year-old baseball pitcher, he had a good outing on Friday. He spent 10 months in a wheelchair because of a surgical error. No one at the hospital here in town, I won't name names, but it wasn't one of mine. It was probably one that did something with kids. Never came and said, he said, all I want to do is say I'm sorry and that this won't happen again. So we right after implemented what we call the high reliability organization. So it's in the nuclear industry, aircraft, HRO. That was the easiest thing that I ever implemented in my career because you're trying to get a bunch of people who are in an industry wanting to care for people, talk about better care for people. I didn't have to sell it. The team designed it.
You told me before, the biggest things that companies get wrong is firing people. Well, what's the words you use when firing somebody?
First, and I've been fired before, so.
Me too.
Us too. Yeah.
That changes your mentality on leading 100%. And working hard, but it also changes your mentality when you fire someone. So the first thing is be kind. This is not personal. Take care of people on the way out. So people watch how someone leaves more than when they come in. I had someone I had to let go that was in the process of rehab for addiction, had been for about 18 months. It was making great progress. I made sure we gave him health benefits, but that continued well beyond the period of severance, right? Make your network available to them, help them get outplacement, call people for them. So treat them with kindness. But in that meeting, you got to make it short and sweet, get to the real issue.
The most impressive thing about me regarding you as a leader You make no excuses and you succeed. And what I mean by that is diversity, equity, and inclusion has gotten a lot of knocking, support. It's very polarizing.
Yes.
What do you say to people who are still on the sidelines about including people that look different or sound different?
It's now, people are now saying, hey, it was a fad. It didn't work. Well, that's BS, right? You made it a fad in the organization. So we started in 2018. And some of the things that came up at that time were, one, my daughter who's in med school was rotating in one of our hospitals. I told her, you're only allowed to rotate with female surgeons because you're not going to see what life is like if you're rotating with a male. And she saw some things like people approaching the trauma surgeon that she was rotating with and saying, nurse, can you help me with this? Mm-hmm. It's like, no, she's a doctor, and some things in the OR. And then the other one was I was recruiting a young executive. He was like 26, and my COO, Eddie, Korean American, this potential person was Korean, and he goes, the only reason I'm talking to you is I know there's an opportunity for me. I see someone that looks like me in a high position. He goes, but I interview in a lot of or other organizations, and that's not the case. I don't see anybody that looks like me, so I know maybe I don't have a future here. So that clicked, but it was when George Floyd was murdered, the organization, the groundswell said, stop talking and start doing. Mm-hmm. So we developed a written framework. All of our executives' pay were put at risk for it. So like when 25% of your pay is at risk, it's not a fad anymore, right? Mm-hmm. And we took a comprehensive look, like what does governance and leadership look like? What do our policies look like? How are we hiring people? So I think you can make it a fad and create a position, but you've got to put the board behind it. You got to put your money behind it. You got to put it in writing and hold yourself accountable to it.
Where does the difference between a great CEO and an average manager come in between all the different academic and personal growth that people can do? Where is the part that they have to find themselves?
Yeah, it's not academic at all. So I would say I call myself the King Arthur, right? So who should have been in Camelot? Who should have been the CEO? Should have been Merlin, right? He's the wizard.
Yeah.
But that dude only shows up when things are really bad, waves his wand, and then disappears and goes wherever, right? And so King Arthur pulls a sword out of the stone and all of a sudden is the CEO, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like I felt. I never aspired to be that because I didn't think it was attainable. I never thought I'd get there. So people that try too hard to get there, you're not going to get there. You've got to prove yourself as an operator.
This has been incredible.
Yeah. One more I've got for you. Of the CEOs I know, you're one of the few whose family still loves them and who is involved in their family, as well. And I think it's easy when you get to a place of performance or high importance, like a CEO, to say, hey, I'll be there when I can. And how have you managed to continue to grow the love and connection between your family and your children while achieving such great things?
That's in the outline for my second book.
All right, there we go.
So to be a CEO, it's a family job, right? So I've got a great spouse, so I have to admit I wasn't always there for the games, the plays, but Liz was always there. So I attribute our kids' success, and I wouldn't have been a CEO if I didn't have a great spouse and partner because it's a family thing, and my kids know that when they're in school they're on display, right? Because everybody knows Dad is the CEO of the big health system or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so, when they mess up at school, it becomes everybody's business. So if your spouse, and I see this a lot with up-and-coming leaders, is their spouse is not ready for
the demands. Like,
we're moving to Springfield. I think we're building our 7th house. And someone's like, 7? I was like, yeah. We've had to move a lot, right, for my career and other things. And if you don't have a supportive spouse and kids, it's not going to work. So I tell people, if your family's not on board with you being a CEO, it's probably like the NFL too, right? If your spouse and kids aren't ready to pick up their bags and move across the country, then it's probably not going to work, right? Mm-hmm. Like, hey, I like Denver and the Broncos. Well, I gotta go play for the Steelers, right?
Yeah.
I got to sell my house. I got to move, new schools. I'm moving a kid junior year in high school. They got to be on board. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
Well, Peter, thank you so much. An incredible conversation. The Peter Banko, ladies and gentlemen. An honor to have you here on the Gridiron Growth Podcast.
An honor to be here. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Peter. Thanks.
Thank you.